We know what Zeke is capable of reaching.
Sure.
At peak Zeke.
Zeke is the best running back in the league. I believe that.
And 1,600 yards is big. 1,600 yards and 15 touchdowns was his first season, Kevin.
That's best running back in the league.
1,400 yards is good.
Yep.
Only 6 touchdowns, but hey, your offense could have been different that year. 1,300 yards and 12 touchdowns. Not good enough for an 8-8 team, right?
Right.
And then he's had 2 seasons of over 900 yards.
One of those I know was the suspension season, but last year people will chalk it up to the...
I think there's a lot of reasons.
Yes.
I think there are various reasons
I agree.
that hurt that. But I guess my question then is, what is a disappointing year for Zeke? Like, what is really disappointing because that you wouldn't even make an excuse up, that you just go, okay, Mike was right. The dude's legs are gone. He has nothing. He can't... All he does is physically go at somebody and look for contact rather than trying to avoid it. What point do you look at it and say those numbers say that the trend is gone and there's nothing left for this guy?
I think anything less than 1,300 yards is a disappointment because people keep trotting out 1,000 yards like it's a big accomplishment. It's really not. Like, it's, 63 yards a game? Like, if you get 1,000 yards, you had 63 yards a game. And now with the expansion to the 17th game, if you had 76.5 yards per game, which again, it's not setting the world on fire in an individual game setting, but if that's what you got over the span of the entire year, that would get you to 1,300 yards. And that is, I think anything below 1,300 yards is a disappointment because the 2 seasons you can look at as struggle seasons, 17 and 20, one because of suspension, last year because of a variety of factors, including the health of the offensive line, which a lot of people think is going to be better this year, thus making all the difference. So I think anything less than 1,300 yards and 10 total touchdowns.
And that's just rushing?
No, 1,300 yards rushing and 10 total touchdowns is a disappointment. And so the touchdowns would be receiving as well.
So what about his receiving yards and his impact there, targets? Because he's been targeted, 95, 71, 71 the last 3 seasons.
That I don't care about as much just because...
You don't think he's a weapon out of the backfield like that?
He is, but it seems like maybe we're steering away from that with the deployment of Tony Pollard and how they might want to do that. I just feel like if Dak is ready to play... and you have 3, because you think about it, like the 2 years ago when he got 95 targets, well, obviously in the meantime, you've added things. And if Dak is going to try to distribute the ball to Gallup, Lamb, and Cooper, as well as when they're using Tony Pollard more as a pass catcher, I would be fine with getting back to like rookie year targets where almost every time you got him the ball, he was going to catch it and he was going to do something with it. I would much prefer that usage of Zeke to lower his touches for and focus on the rushing game than needing to feed him a whole bunch of passes. I think our offense, he's definitely useful, but I wonder if our offense got a little like lazy because they're like, well, we can't really move the ball, so just toss it to Zeke. He'll figure something out.
Yeah, I did feel that there were times where it was like he's our best option because our wide receivers are covered because we run up and turn around. Like that felt like what it was under the Jason Garrett model, right? Was our receivers, if it's 8 yards or 10 yards, they're running to the sticks and turning around, and maybe Zeke can make something explosive happen. And I'm looking at his stats, Kevin. 1,900 yards from scrimmage his rookie year, 1,200 his second year, which was the suspension year, but still 1,200 yards from scrimmage.
Yeah.
2,000 in 2018. 1,700 the year before last, and 1,300 last year. The fumbles are a bit of a concern for me more than anything.
And I did see somebody say best shape of his career, ready to go, would mean no fumbles. And clearly, I think we would all be super pumped about that.
Somebody said from the 469, taking into consideration the stats should definitely be better purely off the fact that the Cowboys have the second easiest schedule in the NFL. If they end up losing the season this year, then that should definitely raise a red flag. I don't go off of that. because that's going to change across the season. By the end of the season, you might look at it and say it was actually the second most difficult schedule based on, what the final outcome is.
No, I get you there.
The preseason, that's really difficult. I do like looking at it and saying, okay, this should help in these instances. But over the long haul, we've seen, Kevin, where they've been like, oh, well, we were 5-0, and everybody's like, oh man, you're playing the Saints though, and they're a bad team. But 3 weeks ago, y'all were like, the Saints are great,
right?
But now what's happened? Because they've had a couple of stumbles here. You're saying that you should discount this game. So I guess for me, Kevin, like if he's not giving you over 7 touchdowns in the red zone, and your offense is not scoring touchdowns in the red zone, that's a huge factor for me.
Because he's not as useful in the red zone anymore, is he?
I don't.
Or can he be? I guess.
I think he can be.
Okay.
I really do think it has a lot to do with your offensive line too. But I think that you should be able to convert 4th and 1s with him. You should be able to convert 3rd and shorts. Which, if you're doing that, if you're converting your 3rd and short situations, then it's giving you more options to do 3rd and short stuff. Does that make sense? Like if now I have a 3rd and 2 and everybody goes, crap, we have to think about Zeke, doesn't that open up for bigger plays whenever 3rd and 2 comes up because they're expecting, and now they've dropped a safety down or they've lined up their defensive front in a different manner that should allow Dak to be able to do a play action and send it for bigger yards? So if you can do those things, so for me, Kevin, the ability to convert on 3rd and shorts and the ability to be a weapon in the red zone is what I'm going to need most out of Ezekiel Elliott. I don't need him to do what Jason Garrett wanted him to do. I don't need 304 touches. I don't need him to have the ball that much because I think this offense can move. I think this offense can move down the field effectively. But whenever Zeke gets the ball, he can't fumble it at midfield and turn us back around. That's going to be the biggest thing. So making sure he's holding on to the ball, making sure that whenever we're in the red zone, he punishes opponents.